Hey, it's Kesha. Welcome and welcome back. We're on our next reading in the Aquarian, and I believe it's chapters 165, 166. So let us begin by first closing our eyes, taking a deep breath in and letting it out. Another deep breath in and out. Just feel yourself collecting, yourself coming back into your body, becoming more present at this time in moment and space. Releasing the busyness and the cares and concerns, any worries. There's plenty of time for everything. And not everything is important. Keep deep breathing. Keep bringing in all parts of yourself, calling all of your power back. Becoming more present, more whole. Any lingering cares and concerns, just simply blow them into a balloon just above your head. Feel your soul lightening with each breath. Feel your mental load drifting away. Now see a gentle column of white light coming down over you, enveloping you, calling you home. Just feel that light all around you. Feel substance pressing against you. Breathe in that light. Feel it filling the spaces within the cells, in between them. Feel it dissolving anything that's not like unto itself. Anything that's not for your highest and best, see it melting away in the light. It's now the very best of you that lifts up in that column of light, lifting up higher and higher out of the earth plane, out of the worldly way, lifting up into that space of pure oneness, communion, love, space of peace and knowing. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. Never underestimate just how powerful those few moments can be, especially in changing consciousness from the workaday to something more present and spiritual. Caiaphas was the high priest of the Jews. The mob led Jesus to his palace hall. The court had been convened and all the galleries were packed with scribes and Pharisees already sworn as witnesses against the Lord. The maid who kept the palace door knew John, and this disciple asked that he and Peter be admitted to the hall. The maid permitted them to enter in, and John went in, but Peter was afraid and tarried in the outer court. The woman said to Peter, as he stood beside the door, Are you the follower of this man from Galilee? And Peter said, No, I am not. The men who had brought Jesus to the hall sat by the fire in the outer court because the night was cool, and Peter sat with them. Another maid who waited in the palace saw Peter, and she said to him, You surely are from Galilee. Your speech is that of Galilee. You are a follower of this man. And Peter said, I know not what you mean. I do not even know this man. And then a servant of Caiaphas, one of those who seized the Lord and brought him to the court, saw Peter and said to him, Did I not see you in the orchard of Massalian with the seditious Nazarene? I'm sure I did. I know you are one who followed him. Then Peter rose and stamped upon the floor and swore by every sacred thing that he knew not the criminal. Now, John was standing near, and when he heard the words and knew that Peter had denied his Lord, he looked at him in sheer astonishment. And just then a cock crew loud beneath the court, and Peter called to mind the words the Lord had said, "Before the cock shall crow tomorrow morn, you will deny me thrice." And Peter's conscience smote him heavily, and he went out into the night and wept. Caiaphas sat in state. Before him stood the man from Galilee. Caiaphas said, "You people of Jerusalem, who is this man that you accuse?" They answered, "In the name of every loyal Jew, we do accuse this man from Galilee, this Jesus, who assumes to be our king, as enemy of God and man." Caiaphas said to Jesus, "Man, you are permitted now to speak and tell about your doctrines, your claims." And Jesus said, "You priests of carnal man, why do you ask about my words and works? Lo, I have taught the multitudes in every public place. I have restored your sick to health. I have opened up your blinded eyes. I have caused your deaf to hear, your lame to walk. I have brought your dead to life again. My works have not been done in secret place, but in your public halls and thoroughfares. Go ask the people who have not been bought with gold and glittering promises to tell about my words and works." When Jesus had thus said, a Jewish guard came up and smote him in the face and said, "How dare you speak thus unto him, the high priest of the Jews?" And Jesus said, "If I have spoken falsely, bear witness unto what I say. If I have told the truth, why did you smite me thus?" And then Caiaphas said, "Whatever you do, do in a legal way, for we must answer to a higher court in everything we do or say. Let the accusers of this man present their charges in a legal form." And then Caiaphas, the scribe, stood forth and said, "I have the accusations here in legal form, the charges made and signed by scribes and priests and Pharisees." And Caiaphas said, "Be still, you men, and hear the charges read." The scribe took up a roll and read, "To the Sanhedrin of the Jews and to Caiaphas the high priest, most honored men, the highest duty man can render to this nation and his own is to protect them from their foes. The people of Jerusalem are conscious that a mighty foe is in their very midst. A man named Jesus has come forth and claims to be the heir to David's throne. As an impostor he is foe, and in the name of every loyal Jew we here submit these charges which are competent to prove. And first, he blasphemes God. He says he is Son of God, that he and God are one. He profanes our holy days by healing and by doing other work upon the Sabbath days. He proclaims himself the king, successor of our David and our Solomon. And he declares that he will tear down our temple and build it up again in form more glorious in 3 days. And he declares that he will drive the people from Jerusalem as he drove out the merchants from the temple court, and bring to occupy our sacred hills a tribe of men that know not God. And he averts that every doctor, scribe, and Pharisee and Sadducee shall go in exile and shall never more return. And to these charges we do set our hands and seals: Annas, Simon, Abinadab, Ananias, Joash, Azaniah, Hezekiah. Now, when the scribe had read the charges, all the people called for blood. They said, "Let such a wretch be stoned. Let him be crucified." Caiaphas said, "You men of Israel, do you sustain the charges of these men?" 100 men who had been bribed stood forth to testify. They swore that every charge was true. Caiaphas said to Jesus, "Man, have you a word to say? Are you the Son of God?" And Jesus said, "So you have said." And then he said no more. When Jesus would not speak, Caiaphas stood before the Jewish mob and said, "Bind fast the prisoner, for he must go before the great Sanhedrin of the Jews to answer for his life. We cannot execute a criminal until our findings have been verified by this, the highest council of the Jews." As soon as it was day, the highest council of the people met. The Lord and his accusers stood before the bar. Caiaphas was the chief. He rose and said, "Let the accusers of this man from Galilee bring forth their charges and their evidence." Caiaphas the scribe stood forth and read the charges and names of those who had accused the man from Galilee. And all the witnesses were made to stand and testify before the council of the Jews. And then the lawyers weighed the evidence, and Nicodemus stood among the men who pled. He raised his hands and said, "Let justice now be done, though every scribe and Pharisee and priest and Sadducee, as well as Jesus the accused, be judged a liar. If we can prove this Jesus to be foe and traitor to our laws and land, let him be judged a criminal and suffer for his crimes. If he be proved that these who testify are perjurers in the sight of God and man, then let them be adjudged as criminals, and let the man from Galilee go free." And then he brought the testimonies of the witnesses before the judges of the law. No two of them agreed. In heat of passion or for gain, the men had testified. The council would have gladly judged that Jesus was a criminal and sentenced him to death, but in the face of all the evidence, they were afraid. And then Caiaphas said, "You man from Galilee, before the living God, I now command that you shall answer me. Are you the Christ, the Son of God?" And Jesus said, "If I would answer yes, you would not hear, nor yet believe. If I would answer no, I would be like your witnesses and stand a liar in the sight of man and God. But this I say, the time will come when you will see the Son of Man upon the throne of power and coming in the clouds of heaven." And then Caiaphas rent his clothes and said, "Have you not heard enough? Do you not hear his vile blasphemous words? What further need have we of witnesses? What shall we do with him?" The people said, "Put him to death." And then the mob rushed up and spit into his face and struck him with their hands. And then they bound a cloth about his eyes and smote him in the face and said, "You're a prophet. Tell us who it was that smote you in the face." And Jesus answered not, and like a lamb before his shearer, the man from Galilee resisted not. Caiaphas said, "We cannot put a man to death until the Roman rulers shall confirm the sentence of this court. So take this criminal away, and Pilate will endorse what we have done." And then was Jesus dragged along the way up to the palace of the Roman governor. So that happened fast. So we're now, late Thursday night into Friday morning. And the first thing we encounter is, Peter and John have gone to the courts to see what's going to happen. And 3 people recognize Peter, and 3 times he denies that he is the man or one of the followers of the man from Galilee. And each time he becomes more and more emphatic, to the extent that the last time when he stamps his foot up and down, I mean, that's just classic, like, "I'm not him," right? John looks at him in just sheer astonishment. And if you remember, John is the Christ. John is love. John represents love. And love doesn't judge, but it can be shocked. So he's just so surprised. And so we have, the first trial with Caiaphas, the second trial when they go to the Sanhedrin, which is the Jewish high court. And many will say that this is where the split between Christians and Jews happened. So before this, we call them the Christines or the Christine band. They're not really Christians, quote unquote, just yet, right? They're all practicing Jews, but some are practicing this newer gospel. And so it is at this point where Jews and of the old ways separate themselves from the Jews who will become Christians, who are the followers of Christ. And we get this lovely line at 166:17. "The time will come when you will see the Son of Man upon the throne of power and coming in the clouds of heaven." And if we go back to the idioms that we've had, coming on the clouds of power coming on the clouds of heaven is being within, being in full mastery. It's having all of your power about you. It is to be triumphant. And I think, this is a short reading, so it makes sense that our video would be a little bit shorter than usual. We will pick this up in the next one. I'd almost want to read it all together so you get the full picture of how quickly things are happening. But in a practical sense, in terms of doing these videos, that's not really the thing to do. But you can always watch them in succession. And so where there's a will, there's a way. I will see you soon and love you in the meantime. Bye.